Glasses on. How do I look?
Good.
And I was gonna say glasses off. I'm like, I think I like glasses off better, but now I can't see anything. You look better. Uh, Welcome to the Well. I am Branan.
And I'm Anson Mount.
And Anson Mount, you are coming to your basement studio. I'm coming from my barely covered, crazy mad scientist desk behind me. The curtain doesn't quite cover it, but I have the blurry spell on, so that helps hide it.
Which is crazy because the last time we spoke, we were together in a completely different part of the world. We were in Aruba with Mai Tais in our hand and the breeze in our hair, and plans to do a catch up there, which never happened. But
we were on island time.
Yeah, we were on island time. Yes, and we were there for the wedding of some close friends, some mutual friends of ours, which was beautiful.
It really was.
This private island, which was unfortunately close to the airport, so that even though it was visually stunning, every now and then you'd get this roar coming from over the water.
But I don't remember that actually happening during the ceremony.
No, it didn't actually. Yeah, no, it didn't at all.
I don't. I'm not a fantasist of any kind, but that it did feel like there was something holding back the weather, holding back the planes during that ceremony, because the weather, you could see, because it's the ocean, you can see forever. You can see the clouds coming over, and like it was blowing a little rain onto our outdoor wedding thing. I could just tell she was getting very, very nervous about it. I could see it on her face. She was so stressed, but it never did. It never rained. So instead, we got amazing, dramatic clouds and the sun peeking through the clouds behind them, reflecting off the ocean. I was like, oh, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, it was really beautiful, and it was great to have a little downtime. We had a great time there. You turned 50.
I turned 50. That was a great time.
Yeah, you want to share with us how you did that?
Yeah, I've managed to live for 50 rotations around the sun. That's how you do that. That's how you turn 50. And don't expire before you do that. And then that's how you become 50. No, I had a couple of rituals in mind. Actually, only one. I knew that my friends, you included, and Sharon, and everybody else who was there was joining us, would make plans for me and celebrate with me. And they did. And that was amazing. I'll get to that in a second. But I wanted to do a thing on my own that was just for me. So midnight, on my birthday, I decided to do a night dive out in the ocean by myself. I'm glad that my mother does not listen to this podcast, because that was panic her. And the idea of it panics a lot of people. It was weird for me too. But the idea was to get in the water, into the ocean at 49, and then come out of the ocean at 50. And that's exactly what I did. And so I got my air buddy. It's a tankless diving system. It's not scuba. It's basically an air compressor with a hose, and shore dived, got into the water around 11:40, and went out a good distance, probably about 100 yards or so, towards where I knew there was a reef. And yeah, just by myself, sort of crawling along the ocean floor with a flashlight. And that's weird because a flashlight at night in the ocean just gives you that sort of horror movie corridor of light. You can only see what's directly in front of you, and it's up to your imagination. That is everywhere else, so it definitely felt a little. I was okay at first, and I'm swimming along, probably about 80 yards out, I have that feeling of there's something else here, and it's big. I got something kind of, my edge of my flashlight caught something, so like, switch over. Biggest porcupine puffer fish I've ever seen. He must have been 3 feet long. And what's weird about those fish is that they have faces. Like most fish don't have a face. They have an eye on one side of a flat head. But puffers have kind of a face. So he kind of jolted a little bit. I kind of jolted a little bit. We looked at each other. He decided I was lost, helpless in some way, not a threat. And he just turned and swam away. And then I got out to the reef, and that's when, like, I'm a rational person, and I kept making sure that I was safe, but there was just something creeping up in the back of my brain going, no, 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 this is dumb. This is really, really dumb. And I was arguing with this, like, hamster brain in the back of my head, like, no, I'm totally fine. I know what I'm doing. I'm experienced. I have lights, blah, blah, blah. Shore's not that far away. I'm oriented. I know where I am. And this louder and louder voice going, no, no. You're in the ocean at night. What are you doing? You're in the ocean at night by yourself. Get out of here. I'm like, no, just a little further. No, turn around. No, I want to see what's behind the thing. No, go. We're going out. Like, okay, fine. Then tried to be cool when I swam back. Took my time, and then I saw a lobster. That was cool.
I love how you're. I love how you're trying to play it cool in front of your subconscious. Like, I'm not gonna give in to him. I'm not gonna show him I'm scared.
F you, self. You've always been scared. You don't rule me. Yeah, I kind of do, actually. I kind of do rule you, actually. We're getting out of here.
Now, when you emerged from the water, did people cheer? Was the boat play? See, I would have had the boat playing Carmina Burana on the loudspeaker, just blaring.
You're right. I've missed it. That was an opportunity.
Thus spake Zarathustra. Dun, dun, dun. Dum, 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 dum.
But you know what does occur to me every time I wander out of the ocean, dragging my gear up the beach? Not this time, but every other time. Sound of ocean, me struggling up the beach, and then collapsing in front of the camera to go 8. So for me, it was a flying circus intro would have been better for me.
Well, now there's a segue, because what I was going to catch up with you guys about is I recently had the experience to meet one of my acting heroes. I was at MegaCon in Orlando and looked over in the green room, and lo and behold, who do I see standing there but John Cleese? Yeah, man. I mean, this guy defines so much of what I understand to be comedy. I don't even know where to start, from Monty Python to A Fish Called Wanda to Fawlty Towers. This guy is just a giant in the world of comedic acting.
Yeah. And how was he?
Gates McFadden was talking to him first, and she came up to me and said, "He's so nice." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, then would you mind introducing me?" So Gates introduced me to John Cleese, and he was really lovely, and the conversation went something like, "I'm sorry, should I know you?" And I said, "No, not necessarily. I'm in a show called you've been around for a while." And I was like, just in general? She said, "In general." I said, "Well, I used to be on a show. I like you. Come here, hug me." And he hugged me, and would not let me finish a sentence. And then this other guy comes walking up and introduces himself to John while we're talking. It says, Mr. Cleese, I'm Andrew. I'm the chief secretary of blah 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 for this entire series of conventions. I just wanted to introduce myself to you. And John said, well, in that case, perhaps you could find me a muffin to fresh out. The guy walks away. And like 15 minutes later, we're sitting at the table, and the guy comes up, and he delivers a muffin to John Cleese. I was like, you rock.
I mean, that man deserves it. He deserves
absolutely.
at least a muffin.
Absolutely.
At least. I know. I think I told you the story about the Zoom comedy thing that we were on with John Cleese for. It was like back in the heart of the pandemic, and it was a comedy club. His daughter. It's his daughter, right? Is going into stand up.
Yeah, I believe so. They're also producing together. They're planning on bringing back Faulty Towers.
Oh, with his daughter?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. But I didn't know that she was doing. Oh, sorry, that's my chair. I didn't know that she was doing comedy. Makes sense. She was learn from the best.
Yeah.
So there was this Zoom event, and there's like 80 people there. John Cleese, his daughter, and this guy who was kind of an MC. Don't remember his name. And everyone kind of wanted to, wax nostalgic with Cleese. He was being very generous, but you get the sense that he can only be generous to a point. And he was getting bored and just wanted to let's do start with someone restless like that. He still had a restless mind at his age. And he's like, I need something to happen. I just need something different to happen. And he was like, somebody insult me. And so Sharon, my wife, said, I'm going to insult you like you've never been insulted before. I'm going to insult you in Hmong. And I'm not going to try to say it because I can't. But she says something to him in Hmong. And then there's a long aside about what it sounded like she said. And no one knew what she said. Finally, she says, I'll translate it for you. I said to you, you smell like rotten meat. And your mother thinks that she's somebody, but she's not. And he actually laughed until he turned red. And he was like coughing, kind of like laughter. He got such a kick out of it. And then he said, oh, if you only knew, that is so true about my mother. She just died. And it turns out she hadn't just died. She lived a perfect century. She was born in 1900, and died in 2000, maybe 2001. I think so. She lived the entire century, and Cleese was telling us about her, saying, "Oh, she was always a very sad, kind of depressed person, and she lived through all the big changes. She started out with horse and wagons, and saw cars and electricity, lights, photography, the space age, everything, and she didn't notice any of it." And then he told the story about an episode with his mother that convinced him to go into comedy. Do you know this one?
No.
He was kind of, well, what was he doing before? Because all those Python guys were on a different track.
Yeah, no, I heard a couple of them, I believe, were studying philosophy.
Graham was pre-med, or he had finished his medical degree. And I think one of them was maybe in law, going into law. I don't remember, but they obviously didn't go to Cambridge and Oxford to start the Flying Circus.
Right.
But they were doing something else. And Cleese, he said his mother was always, sounds clinically depressed, and was always just very negative and very down, and talked about kind of not wanting to be around. And Cleese remember there was, in his neighborhood, there was kind of like a small-time crime family that everyone knew of. Everyone knew who they were. And there was a rumor that one of them was a hitman and actually killed people. So he's on the phone with his mother. His mother is complaining and complaining and complaining. And he says, and he decides to risk it. He normally just sat there and listened and kind of suffered through it. And this time he dared and was like, well, if you're having such a hard time, maybe we can get one of the McKinney boys to take care of you. And he was like, oh, why don't I do that? There's a long silence, and then she just exploded into laughter. And it was his moment of like, wow, look how powerful a joke can be. Look how powerful humor can be. Yeah. Look what it just did to her.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
And everything's in that story. He took a huge risk for him, you know, to threaten, to make a joke about hiring someone to kill your own mother to your mother. And then the power of it. I don't know. That really caught me.
Maybe we should get into the drop. For those of you who don't know and are new to the show, this is not our normal episodes. We don't normally come on here and just sort of ramble like we just have about our lives and our comedy fetish and our getting wet to turn 50 or vice versa. But what we normally do is we have these. This is a new segment called The Drop, relatively new, where in order to keep in touch with our listeners, we occasionally get together and talk about everything we've been seeing, reading, hearing, listening to, and things that are inspiring us. If you want to listen to the show, if you're new to the show, we recommend that you do start at the beginning with our regular episodes and work your way forwards. But you're certainly not going to miss out by listening to this. And everything will make sense if you listen to it out of order as well. But with that said, why don't we get started?
Right. So are we actually going to roll for, how long have we been on? Like 20 minutes before we introduce the show that we're doing?
I guess so.
Why don't we? No, that's actually a very Flying Circus thing to do. Why don't we put the intro and the credits at the end?
Right.
It's owl stretching time.
And now for something completely different.
I'm trying to think. Okay, so I guess I'll go first.
Okay. You saw Dungeons and Dragons.
I saw Dungeons and Dragons and loved it. I was surprised how much I thought I was going to like it, but I didn't know I was going to like it that much. It captures the improv of the game, as you and I know, as people who don't know, Anson was our dungeon master for some time, and had to put up with all of us kind of goofing around, trying to keep us on track. And so much of the fun of the game is discussing what ifs with your teammates and trying out something and it not working, or it backfiring spectacularly because you rolled a 1 or something, and then having to like retreat, run, and figure out something else. And that's improv. And it never occurred to me until watching the movie that improv is the kind of the heart of comedy. So they found all that humor in the movie. I was surprised at how it managed to pay close attention to the game and really honors the game without getting kind of like stuck on it or obsessive and going down a rabbit hole about it. I'll give away one thing. But there's so much in this movie. This isn't a big deal. There's a character, a paladin, in the movie who's clearly an NPC. He's being puppeteered by a dungeon master who never appears. There's no talk of a dungeon master or anything in this movie. But clearly there's something weird about this guy. He can't take a joke. His banter sucks. He delivers information, and he's weirdly knowledgeable and awesome at every single thing that he does. And then like exits the campaign at like a really important moment and it just kind of doesn't make any sense. And all the other players are like, where are you going? And he's like, I must be off. And like, why now? Like, it doesn't make any sense in like normal screenwriting rules, you know?
Right. But if you played the game.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah. Yeah. I loved it. I really loved it.
Oh God, I've got to see it.
Yeah. You're going to dig it.
Awesome.
And you? I have one more. Should I just dive into my other one?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay. Beau Is Afraid.
Who?
Ari Aster's.
What?
You haven't heard of this?
No.
Ari Aster, Hereditary and Midsommar. His new film, Beau Is Afraid, with Joaquin Phoenix.
No, I don't know anything about it.
Oh, wow. Now I'm not sure much to say.
But I like this filmmaker.
And this is my favorite thing he's made by
Really?
far. Oh, man. I always feel weird about this moment where I'm going to recommend something and I don't want to set people up, I don't want to oversell it. And I will say, it's not for everyone. A lot of people actually really hate this movie. I loved it. I felt like it was made for me. I mean, like the only complaint, it's not really even a complaint, but the first hour is so good. He sets the bar so high for himself that I don't know how he could have possibly sustained it all the way to the end. But it's also good. You don't care. By the time maybe it starts to sag towards the end a little bit, like you still don't care. It's just like it was so worth it. And I don't know what to say about it. It's kind of like a Thomas Pynchon meets Franz Kafka. It's like maximum neuroses. I can't even stress how neurotic this thing is, and funny, and because it's Ari Aster, he somehow finds comedy and horror in the exact same note. It's not like Evil Dead or something where it goes back and forth between horror and comedy and they overlap a little. It's the same point, and in that same beat, in that same moment, like that's horrific and that's really funny. I don't know quite how he pulls all that off, but I'm utterly impressed. Yeah, I'm still kind of buzzing about that one. And to finish off and do this in a trilogy, last night I saw Evil Dead Rise.
Oh. Yeah.
That's it. I saw it.
Huh.
Not gonna bring everyone down with my review of that. It's fine. It's fine.
Who did that?
I can't remember the name of the guy. Can't remember the guy's name. It was still produced by Raimi and Campbell,
Right.
but
it's got to be them.
it looks fine. But that's not the point. It's just not Evil Dead to me. It's not funny.
Right.
It's super grim. It's really, really, really grim. It also has a kind of a. It's like somebody had a horror movie scare deck of cards, and you're just kind of dealing them out. Like, okay.
Well, before we destroy my friendship with Sam Raimi, let's.
I don't blame Sam Raimi at all. I don't blame Sam Raimi at all. We can always edit this part out. And my opinions are my own. Anson and I disagree all the time.
Well, I've got a couple of things. I'm a big sci-fi reader, and there's a book I've been saving for a long time. One of the staples of science fiction, probably in the past 25 years, is Hyperion by Dan Simmons. It's on everybody's top 10 list, and I figured, okay, I'm going on vacation. I'm gonna finally pick this up, and it did not disappoint. It is it's a sci-fi take on basically a mashup of the Canterbury Tales and Beowulf, and it is a feat of world building on top of that, and really well drawn characters. It's a traveling group of pilgrims who all have to tell their individual stories of how they got there in order to unlock some clue, and they're also heading into the heart of the beast at the same time. And it's really enjoyable. I can't wait to read. There are some sequels. I can't wait to read them. So that's on my what's been on my bedside table. And what I've been watching recently is the final season of Succession.
Ugh.
It's, which I know you're watching too. We've talked about this before, I believe. And I when Succession first came out, I tried it and I gave up on it at first because I was like, who are you root for? You know, like there's no hero. And then I gave it another shot and I realized, oh, I know what this is. This is a gorgeous slow motion train wreck. And you can just love it for exactly that. It is beautifully cast from top to bottom.
Yeah.
And great writing, as well as you can tell that there are times where they allow the actors to play fast and loose with the scenes. And especially when it comes to those scenes between cousin Greg and, sorry, who's Siobhan's husband? What's the character's name?
Well, I can't pronounce it. It's Tom.
Tom and Greg.
Woe Baggins or something like that.
They have, you can tell that they let them go out on a limb quite a bit. And it's just, every time those two are on screen together, it's just gold. It's the perfect rendition of high-low status comedy, you know? But in general, it's a really well-told story. And I got a lot of respect for the filmmakers who decided, no, you know, it's a huge hit, but no, this is 4 seasons going to be it. This story's over. We don't want to drag it out longer than it needs to be dragged. I really dig that. And I'm enjoying the hell out of this last season. It just does not disappoint.
I don't know if we want to spoil it.
No, we shouldn't.
They made it. No, okay, yeah. All right.
But they make big decisions.
That was a big decision.
Yeah.
But then in retrospect, you're like, of course, they're so smart. You know, you can't save that till the end. That wouldn't work.
No.
So,
absolutely. So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, jump into Succession if you can, and those of you who do know what we're talking about, help us keep the secret. Don't spoil this for anybody.
For those who know what we're talking about, don't tell the people that don't know what we're talking about.
Don't start your own podcast.
Just create a podcast called Spoilers, and that's all you do is ruin it for other people.
And then the other thing is, I was home alone with my daughter the other day, who is now 16 months, and she has her little they call it a learning tower, which basically it's a fancy stool with sides on it so she can't fall out, that you put up to the kitchen counter so that she can stand there with you at the kitchen counter. And because it's amazing how much you start to realize how much time you spend in the kitchen as a family. And she eats there. She eats standing up on her learning tower. And one day I was like, you want to play some music? And I turned the computer around and I pulled up. I was like, I feel like listening to Nirvana. So I pulled up MTV Unplugged Nirvana, and I hit instead of hitting the album, I inadvertently hit the show itself, and it started playing, and my daughter was rapt. She just could not take her eyes off of Kurt Cobain. I'm not sure if that bodes well for her musical taste or bodes not so well for her taste in men, but it reminded me how brilliant of an album that was. And when that first came, I mean, I remember the day he died like it was yesterday, and I'm not sure why. But I love that album still.
I mean, it's interesting that there's something.
And by the way, I mean no slight to Kurt Cobain when I said does not bode well for her taste in men. I don't mean that about Kurt Cobain. I mean that about I don't want her to become a groupie.
Oh, right. Well, but it's also interesting that I don't know. There's something elemental about Cobain's talent and performance.
Yeah.
And I think as I can see a baby that cutting through to a baby mind that can still, even at that age, go, this is the real thing. I trust this man. He knows what he's doing.
And how amazingly loose that session was. Like when you watch the show instead of listening to the album, you see them discussing, should we do this? Should we do that? I don't know. Should we play these? You know what? Screw it. Let's play these back to back. It doesn't matter. They're both on the same album. You know what? Or you know what? This one I tuned down to a D, so I'm not sure that's going to work here. And it's not polished at all. It's just them raw, which is what that show was all about.
Yeah. And I think, kind of that, I mean, everyone, I think most people, especially our age, they know that show. They know that performance. But I want to give a quick shout out to the Kirkwood brothers from the Meat Puppets, because they were the backup. They were kind of this session musicians in a way that kind of supported Nirvana for that show. And they are basically one of my favorite musicians of all time. I don't talk about them that much, but they're astonishingly good. I don't know how familiar you are with the Meat Puppets, but Kirkwood brothers, man, they kind of started the cowpunk thing, so it's kind of this bluegrass country inflected punk rock. And God, they are sensational musicians.
Oh, you know what?
Sensational.
That reminds me, I was not going to talk about this, but you just reminded me. And it's worth mentioning. I was in Cleveland recently, and I got to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, if you've never been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you have got to go. It is so much bigger and more impressive than you can possibly imagine. I.M. Pei designed the building, so it's huge, and it resembles the Louvre, kind of. And we got a special tour, so with it, the first thing they did is they brought us back to the archives, and the first thing that the lady pulled out for us was Jimi Hendrix's Patchwork jacket. And you know exactly, you can see in your head the jacket I'm talking about right now. They'd just gotten it in. And then they pulled out the notebook with the handwritten lyrics to Born in the USA.
Wow.
I mean, those are just the first two things, right?
Jeez.
And then you because it's only kind of recently that these things can start to be really considered history. And the standing rule is that you can't, to be inducted, I believe it is 25 years from the publishing of your first album.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the rules were. And come to find out, because I was asking, have the Dead Kennedys been inducted? All these different, Dexter Romweber, they're like, no. I was like, what? And then I got into the actual Hall of Fame where they have, all the names of the bands and the musicians in gold etched into the wall. And you realize it's a very select group. It's only about 5 or 6 people a year get inducted into the Hall of Fame. And the displays themselves were interesting, not just that by what was there, but what was sometimes not there, because they maintain a working relationship with the musician. So for instance, when Alice Cooper was going back on tour, he didn't like the new guillotine that they built for him. So he asked them if he could borrow back his original guillotine from the 1970s. And he took it on tour, and then he brought it back to them. And right now, Depeche Mode is on tour, so their exhibit is completely empty. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it's not just the inductees. There's a lot. There are sections dedicated to entire movements or entire sections of the country, and just if you keep your eyes peeled, you will come across every now and then a name of a band you have never heard of that you can then go and pull up on iTunes and have a blast. Mine this time was a band called Moby Grape out of San Francisco in the 1960s. And they are everything I wanted to be listening to. They're kind of some Bread, they're kind of some Stones, they're really gritty rock and roll. And then the band that I love their name, but it wasn't quite my jam. Check this name, the Quicksilver Delivery Service. Great name.
That's a good, yeah.
What a great name for a band. It also San Francisco, 1960s. So yeah, I man, you cannot do it in a day. You got
I didn't realize.
You got to go back a couple of days in a row to really see it all.
It was that big. And then you sent me, while you were there, you sent me that picture of Jimi Hendrix's guitar.
Yeah. There was a guitar painted in nail polish that I hadn't read the placard closely, and I said to my tour guides, I said, my friend is the biggest Jimi Hendrix fan in the world. He's gonna love this. I took the picture, sent it to Branan. Branan sent back. You'd read the placard, and apparently somebody had painted over it.
Yes,
and you're like, what kind of asshole does that? Fuck him. I showed it to my tour guides, and they died laughing. Wow, he really is the biggest Jimi Hendrix fan.
I sent you back immediately an annotated photograph of the photograph you just sent me, of because somebody like, oh, who is that guy? I just don't remember his name, but yeah, Jimi Hendrix painted it with nail polish, this flower thing, and he gave it to a band. You know what? Screw him. I'm not going to publish and give his name any more air. He's the one that painted over an all black. He went over Jimi Hendrix's paint job with an all black paint scheme. So not only to go over Jimi Hendrix's paint scheme, he also went over with the most boring non-idea ever. So yeah, F him.
What I didn't send you a picture of that they also had there was the soundboard that Jimi Hendrix had made specifically to record Electric Ladyland.
Wow.
And you can look, and the face of the board is all of the whole. It's one sheet of stainless steel, and everywhere they had to cut in rectangular holes for the switches and the knobs are just rough sawn into.
Oh wow!
This. You can see how it was literally handmade and put together, and they have it there.
Oh, that's cool. So like the metal still has like little burrs on it and stuff. Like still kind of.
Yeah, it's not finished. It's not finished at all. You could cut yourself on this thing.
That's so rock and roll.
I know.
The Well is produced, edited, and recorded by Anson Mount and me, Branan Edgens. Theme music written by Jonathan Myberg and performed by Branan Edgens. Until next time, have a good time.